Hello, and thanks for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. If you're returning, thanks, it means a lot. So this is going to be part 4 of the CRX ZC engine teardown and rebuild, and part 1 of the engine rebuild series. I'm going to split it between 2 different playlists, because this kind of applies to any internal combustion engine. So after you've found your engine, whether it be a junkyard, secondhand, you want to make sure the rotating assembly, which is the crankshaft and the harmonic balancer here in the front, make sure all that rotates smoothly. If it does, then you're already about 50% there. You know that the engine, is not too severely damaged, hopefully. When you get it back to the shop or wherever you're going to rebuild it, just strip everything off the head, the oil pan, look for any metal down there, and any abnormal pieces that shouldn't be in the oil pan. Get the head off, and then before you clean it, you kind of want to look over everything. And this example here, you can still see the factory Honda finish on there, which is amazing. This engine is about 30 years old. Let me try and zoom in maybe. There we go. You can see that finish on there. It's like little clovers or diamonds. So it's really, really decent shape as far as the deck height goes and the decking. And then you kind of want to look into all the cylinders. These cylinders don't have any deep scoring. Those little rust marks and that dark carbon mark at the top are normal. So everything in the cylinders look good. Flip the engine around. Take a look on the underside for any cracks in the liners or cylinders. You want to look down at the main caps. Any deep scoring or any deep discoloration is a no-go. If you see just little witness marks of where the bearings were, that's fine. We'll polish those out once we get the block clean, or maybe it'll come out with the block getting cleaned. Overall, the block looks decent. The oil pan surface looks good. You want to check the other side of the main caps or the girdle and make sure there's no scoring or anything in there. So everything in this block looks good, and we're gonna get it cleaned out and get all this oil and gunk out of there. So however you guys do it, pressure washer, oven cleaner, however, to each his own. So we'll come back after the block is cleaned. So I wanted to go in and show how to measure a crankshaft. All the journals, the main journals and the rod journals, to make sure that everything's within spec and that it's usable and it doesn't have to be ground down for oversized bearings. So take a look at each one of the journals here. So this here is the rear main seal area. That lip is fine there. That's from the seal riding on it, so that's not a journal. Don't worry about that. This is a journal. That's a main journal. That's a main journal. That's a main journal. That's a main journal. And that's a main journal. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is on a D16 crankshaft. And then each offset journal is your rod journal. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are for your 4 pistons. This will apply to any crankshaft, but this one specifically is for a D16 Honda. So we want to take measurements, and we're going to measure the main journals now, going straight across the middle. And the specification for that is 2.1644 to 2.54, I believe. Let me check real quick. Yeah, so the main journals are 2.1644 to 2.1654. So let's get them all measured out. You're going to need a dial caliper or a vernier caliper or a micrometer, something to get in here and measure with. And we want to go right across the middle. We'll get this in there. Let me set the phone down and try and get this set up. Okay, so we want to square the caliper up on there. Make sure it's nice and square. Slide it, get your reading and lock it, and then pull it off. And here we see we're past the 2. So 2.10. We're past the 5 tick there. Past the 6, that's 2.16. And then that's right in the middle of 6 and 7, so that's 2.165. So definitely within spec. So I got 2.615 on this, and the spec was 2.1644 to 2.1654. So that first journal's all in spec. So I'm going to run across all of them real quick and check them and come back. Okay, so every main journal bearing was exactly the same, 2.165, and you know, this doesn't go down that low, but it's within the range. So it's 2.615 on every rod journal. So that means that this crankshaft is good. I'll polish the mains and we'll get a set of regular standard bearings for it. Now we'll check the rod clearances. And let me go check and see what those specs are. Okay, it's 1.7707 to 1.7717. So again, you want to square it up on the journal itself. Let's get this thing loose. Square it up. And take our reading. So let me set this down. This might not be very accurate because I'm trying to record as well. Let's see what we got. Alright, we're past the 1, so that's 1.7. That's 1.75, 76, 77. That's 1.7. And it's in between 8, so that definitely is within spec. So let me go ahead and measure all of them and double check. Alright, so that's a more accurate reading. And as you can see, it's 1.77, and it's like right in between the 7 and 8 on the lower side though. So that journal's definitely within spec. We'll go across the next 3 and double check and see if we get all the same readings. Okay, and all the rod bearings all measure out the same, 7.77 and change. So it's definitely within spec. I'll go back and double check with a micrometer to be sure, but these all look in spec, and as you can see, to the untrained eye, if you looked at it, you might think that something's wrong, but those are normal marks. Everything's smooth, so we'll get this crank polished out and see what happens. We're down here at the block now, and we're going to start measuring the bore and the cylinders. So basically, they're 2.953, which is 75 millimeters. In order to measure accurately, you're going to need, again, a caliper and a bore depth gauge. An internal one, this is about 2.5 to 3.5, I believe. So let me get it set up. Let's go down there and see what we get. Okay, you insert the gauge. Well, you collapse it first. You push them in and tighten this little thimble down, and then you drop it down. And anywhere between half, you don't want to be right at the top, and you don't want to be all the way at the bottom. So you can actually see where the piston skirts ride. That's about where you want to be. And you want to get a measurement. So it's about 1/3 of the way down. So I say 1/3 of the way down to halfway is good. You get your measurement, you lock it in, and then you pull it straight out. And now we'll get the measurement and transfer it over to the caliper. Okay, so I transferred over and locked the caliper down, and it is absolutely perfect. If you can see, let me try and zoom in. If you look over on the left, you see the big 2. The next number biggest number you can see is the 9. So we're at 2.9. And if we count from 90, that's the 9. 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, and it's just over 95. So the manufacturer spec for this block is 2.953. So I believe that is right on 2.593 because that is right above that line. That's perfect, which is amazing after all the damage that this block had. So we're going to run through all the rest of the cylinders and check them and come back. Well, I measured all 4 and I am truly amazed. Every single one of them measured exactly the same, just like the crankshaft journals and the rod journals. And like I said, even the head, you can still see the factory mark. So this thing suffered catastrophic failure. Oil pump failure, 2 cracked pistons. The valves didn't look bent, but the pistons were cracked and all the intake valves hit, and no damage to the block or anything. This block guard was in there, so I don't know if the block guard helped, but everything checks out, and now I know that I can order standard size bearings, standard size pistons, standard size rings. Everything will be standard going back in as if it was getting refreshed from the factory. So I'll get a bottle hone, we'll hone everything out, get all the parts ordered, and we'll get this build moving. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.